Hey everyone, it's Bridget here from Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. Hoping you're well, hoping you are safe on this beautiful day, very close to Christmas, obviously. So we are doing a little Christmas cooking class tonight here in my kitchen, and we will be cooking up a bit of a treat. And now it's not the first time I have taught you guys how to make gingerbread, but I believe every time I make it, I get better and better and better. So I'm calling this Gingerbread 2.0. This is my 2.0 version. It is, of course, gluten-free. It is, of course, free from refined sugars as well. There is no dairy in here. If you do not want any dairy, there's a dairy-free option. But there's also a vegan option as well. So I'm kind of covering as many bases as possible. There's also no grain in this gingerbread. So it is one of those wonderfully spiced, lovely little breads you can make, or cookies or biscuits or whatever you want to call it. And yes, you can make the most gorgeous shapes. It holds its shape really, really well, but has a lovely crunch to the biscuit too. And as well as that, I'm also going to teach you guys how to make a sugar-free royal icing, which is very exciting too. So thank you for joining me on the first, actually I don't think it's the first, this is our second Christmas cooking class of the year so far. We've got a couple more this week, obviously, and then we'll do even a few more next week as well, because I absolutely love Christmas. So if you want to join me down on my bench, we can get into the recipe. And by the way, I will be sharing this recipe if you'd like to request it as a PDF. It'll be shared tomorrow as well on Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, so feel free to keep an eye out if you would like a copy of the recipe sent to you tomorrow as well. So come on down to my bench. It's a very simple recipe, as most of my recipes are, as you guys know. So we're going to work straight into our bowl, which means we're going to put our little scales underneath, as we always do, just to make things nice and easy. Now I am using almond flour. You could also use almond meal, but you know what? You could use any nut or seed flour of your choice. I will leave it up to you. And what you want to do, this makes, depending on how big your cookie cutters are, this is going to make you between a dozen to 2 dozen cookies. So it's a really, really well sort of, it's a recipe that a little goes a long way, put it that way. So we're going to put 120 grams of our almond flour into here, which is around about 4.2 ounces of, and as I was saying, any nut flour of your choice, and you know what, do a seed flour as well. Give it a go with, you know, sunflower seed flour could be quite nice, but you just need 120 grams in total, which is 4.2 ounces. The sweetener we're going to be using today, of course, is, you know which one it is. 0 is sugar. Our pure erythritol is going into here. And we need 50 grams of erythritol, which is 1.7 ounces. It's about 2 tablespoons if you don't have scales, but I always suggest you do have scales, because oh my goodness, it's so much easier to do things with scales, isn't it? You get exact measurements, which is what we want. So we're also going to add just a touch of raising agent. That is a little bit of baking powder. So all you need for this is just a half teaspoon of baking powder. Goes in there as well. And let's get into the spices. Now, all the spices that I'm showing you guys today, I'm very excited by them, because these are all the spices that went into these cookies I created when Mahey and I got married. So this is like my wedding spice mixture. Yeah, I have a few of them. I have 4 spices that are going into this today. And these are the exact 5 spices. These are the exact 5 spices that went into our wedding cookies. So the cookies I made for our when we got married and handed out these little gifts to everyone. And the first spice you want to go in there is just a little bit of nutmeg, and we're going to be putting half a teaspoon of nutmeg in there. Nutmeg's quite strong, so you want to go a little bit carefully on the nutmeg. I'm also going to be putting in some cloves. Cloves, as you know, are very strong. These are ground cloves. So with the cloves, it's just another little 1/4 teaspoon of the ground cloves go in. We're also going to be adding in some cinnamon, and cinnamon is 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. Not too much cinnamon, because cinnamon can make your mouth a little bit numb. So that's why I'm just going a little bit easy on the cinnamon. And ginger, of course, because these are gingerbread. And with the gingerbread, I'm not going to be that careful. I'm going to be, with the ginger, ground, of course, I'm going to be adding in 1 3/4 of a teaspoon of ginger. If you like it really spicy, go with 2 teaspoons, definitely. And the last spice that I'm putting in is a little bit of allspice. And I'm going to have, the spoon won't fit, look, to use the other end. And by guess, it looks like about half a teaspoon to me. that goes in there as well. So those are my weddings, well not mine, they're me and Mahei's wedding spices. And they are wonderful, and I do love spiced cookies, hence why I serve them at our wedding. Of course. All right, give it a bit of a stir, just a little bit. If you know, just got any, in case you got any lumps in there, give it a little bit of a stir. And then you're also going to be adding in, where is it? A pinch of salt, which of course is over here. Just a pinch of mineral salt goes in there as well. And that is pretty much all our dry ingredients. So it's, like I said, this is an easy recipe to do. So once you put your dry in, you've given it a bit of mix, we're going to start thinking about the wet ingredients. Now, I've got a couple of things to talk to you about when it comes to the wet ingredients. Number one is if you don't mind adding an egg, you can. It only requires actually half an egg. So in order to get, you know, turn that into half an egg, the best way to do that is to just put it in a little bowl. Give it a little bit of a stir, just like that. Give it a bit of a stir, and then once you've given it a bit of a stir, you just basically add half of that. That's how you get half an egg. I know, pretty clever, eh? Pretty cool trick. So if you wanted to, you could use egg. You don't have to use egg. The vegan option for this is actually to take half a tablespoon of chia seeds and same little bowl, not with egg in it obviously, just a little bowl of chia seeds in it, half a tablespoon with 1.5 tablespoons of water, stir it, leave it for 10 minutes, you will make like a chia gel. So if you don't want to add egg, you want to go vegan, then you will do the chia gel instead. So at that point, this is where you would add all of your chia gel or half of your egg, which is around about that, right? See, about that much left, which is great. So once we've done that, we can think about the other wet ingredients. And once again, you can either add, if you want to go vegan, you could add 20 mils of melted coconut oil into here. That would be a pure, obviously a pure vegan dish. But if you wanted to as well, just use butter, then you could use 20 grams of grass-fed butter. So I am going for the butter option today because I've obviously got the egg in there. A bit of butter is good for us. So 20 grams of our melted butter. Oh, look at that, perfect amount. I didn't even weigh that. That is fantastic. We're also going to add the very last of our, well, second to last, there's one more actually. A little bit of this, a little bit of fiber syrup. Tablespoon of fiber syrup goes in there. It's going to help to give us the crunch. Really important that you put the fiber syrup in there. And then, if you would like, just half a teaspoon of a lovely pure vanilla extract can go in there as well. That's pretty much all the ingredients done. So, just get yourself a spoon. Give it a little bit of a mix. And what you're looking for is obviously you're creating now the dough for your gingerbread. You don't need any fancy machines for this one. You can literally just make everything in a bowl and a wooden spoon. And what you can see, it's coming together really nicely. And it's starting to literally form its own dough, which is what you want. Now, if you find that while you're doing this, it doesn't quite seem like it's coming together like mine, and it might be a little bit crumbly, then you can add a little bit more egg. Or you can add, if you're doing the vegan version, just a little bit of water, like literally half a tablespoon at a time until you get the mixture looking like this, which it's literally come into a ball. I know that mixture is ready now, which is fabulous. So we're gonna, of course my hands have been cleaned prior to this. They are nice and clean. And the best way to roll out your mixture is to take you up some baking paper. A length of baking paper. And then you just dump that ball, that dough, directly onto the baking paper. So you're not even making a mess on your bench, which is really fabulous. And you could think about getting to rolling right now if you wanted to. You could also, at this point, you could flatten this into a disc and leave it sitting in the refrigerator for a little bit, just to firm up a bit, or if you want to bake them later, completely up to you. If you decide you want to roll now, my suggestion is you get another piece of baking paper the same size, little baby rolling pin, and you just roll away and you create the base for making your cookies or your bread or your shapes or your biscuits or whatever you want to call them. This is basically you pretty much almost done. As I was saying, this is such an easy recipe to do. And you can get so many cookies out of it, especially if you decide that you want to roll it really flat. and really thin. So it's up to you. You can either get, like as I was saying, around about say 2 dozen cookies out of here, about 24 if you roll it quite thin. Or if you like your cookies or your biscuits to be a little bit thicker, then you could probably get about 12 out of there. So it's a really easy recipe, and it's, like I say, very versatile. So peel back that top bit of paper and you have the perfectly rolled. So easy, right? Don't worry about having to add any extra flour or anything like that. These two pieces are your best friend. And of course, now you could actually use that to line your baking sheet as well, so you're not wasting it. Now, by the way, the oven is set at 170 degrees Celsius, which is 320 degrees Fahrenheit. All you need to now do is decide which really cute little characters you're going to be making today. That's up to you. Christmas ones, of course. There's Santa looking quite jolly. I'm quite fond of things like stars because they kind of work everywhere, and gingerbread people and trees. These are kind of my favorites. So all you would need to do at this point in time is, of course, is to make your shapes. And the easiest way to do it, I have found, is literally to go along and make all your shapes. That's the first, that for me makes so much more sense. So you make your shapes, whatever shapes you decide you want to do, cut them all out. You can see how good the dough is that it's not sticking to my cutter, which is really fabulous, which is kind of what you want. So you make your shapes, and this for me is the easiest way to actually to go around and get, you know, to go around and to expose your shapes rather than trying to lift them off. Is I actually like to do something more like this, where I go along with my little spatula and I expose the shapes just by literally taking this, you know, taking the sides off so that the shapes are there, and then I don't have to move anything. And once again, you could literally go straight up, put this entire thing, once you've exposed the shapes, you can put this entire thing onto your baking sheet. You don't have to move them or transfer them onto the baking sheet. So once again, how you decide to do is completely up to you. Like I was saying, I find this to be the easiest way, is I just go around exposing all the shapes that I've made with my little spatula, and then I pick up the entire bit of baking paper and then I take that over to the baking sheet and it bakes that way. So that's what you can do. You've got these lovely little stars here. It's literally, once you've done that, you pick it up and then you take it to your baking sheet. My one's over here. Put it in the oven. And then 10 to 12 minutes later, remember at 170 degrees, 10 to 12 minutes later, you will have a tray full of these cute little baked goodies. Now, when it comes to baking, please, please, please keep an eye on them, because they will, depending on your oven, you may have to turn your oven down a little bit, even to 165, because you don't want them to get too dark around the edges. You may also have to turn the tray halfway through the baking process, but you want them to darken up, but at the same time you don't want them to be too dark. So I've got my trees up that end, got my little gingerbread men, and of course I've got my stars down the bottom. Now I would love to teach you guys how to make the frosting or the icing. It's so incredibly simple, and it really does make such a difference as well. So I suppose you could call it royal icing if you wanted to. You could call it royal icing, and it is a revelation, because if you would decide that you want to just, you know, squiggly lines over it, or you actually want to do little patterns on here, once you've made this royal icing, it just sits in the fridge for about an hour, and then it goes lovely and hard. So it's a really good royal icing, and of course it's sugar-free. So how do you make sugar-free royal icing? Crazy, this is so cool. All right, the first thing you're going to need is a nice little food processor, or I use my little spice grinder. This is a little spice and coffee grinder from Sunbeam. They cost about 25 bucks. And I use it if I want to make a little bit of nut butter or something like that, because it's really quick. But it's also perfect for turning my zero as erythritol, my zero sugar, into basically powdered sugar or icing sugar. So I'm going to be putting straight into my little machine here, my spice grinder, 50 grams, which is 1.7 ounces of our zero as sugar goes in there. Because you know, you can buy like this type of sugar made into icing powder or powdered sugar, but you can also make your own, and it takes this long. Yeah, you've just made icing sugar. Cool, huh? What a great trick. I know, it is a brilliant trick. It is so awesome. And then we just put it into a bowl. You've made, look at that, in a couple of seconds. I love this little machine. Probably if I were to do like a list of my favorite machines, this one is right up there with my little mini food processor, because look what I made. In like, a couple of seconds, you can make icing sugar. And you don't have to turn around and buy it. You make your own icing sugar. And yes, you could do this with normal sugar. Not that I'm recommending we eat normal sugar, because that'll send your body into a crazy spin. You can make it with our erythritol as well. So we're just going to add a few little bits and pieces to this, to the icing. We need to add just a little bit of, you can either use xanthan gum or gira gum. And you want to add in, it's just a tiniest amount, like a quarter teaspoon of xanthan gum goes in there. And then we need to make it into the icing. And the way that we do that is you can either use coconut milk, you could use almond milk, you could use any type of nut milk of your choice, or non-dairy milk. So start off with a tablespoon and then just give it a bit of a stir and see what happens, because you're going to be adding between 1 to 3 tablespoons for this amount of 0S sugar. So that's not quite enough. We'll add a little bit more. So now I've got 2 tablespoons in there. And you can already see, just with that small amount of liquid, we have began to make this paste. So at this point in time, up to you, you could add a little bit of almond essence, pure almond essence. Very strong, if you like it almondy, like marzipan. And then I would just add like a drop. Whoop, just like that. Not too much, because the stuff is like full on. And you start to really get that marzipan. If you like marzipan, you're going to love it. And in all that little bit of marzipan, that just with, almond that went in there to give that marzipan flavor, you notice how the mixture is really beginning to soften up. So I think I need just a little bit more of my coconut milk, not too much. So I probably added about 2.5 tablespoons at this time. But you just keep on adding it until it gets into a icing consistency. I'm going to add a bit more. I think it needs a tiny bit more. It's a little bit thick. You don't. The trick here is you don't want it too thick and you don't want it too thin. So it's a consistency thing, right? I need a bit more. There you go. So this is really funny. I added more this time around than I did last time. Look, I've got no more coconut milk left. Yeah, I reckon we'll be good though. We'll be good to go. Yeah, that's good. So you're after something that is basically pipeable. This is what your icing needs to be. You want to be able to ice your cookies, right? And so it's starting to look pretty good. I could probably add a tiniest bit more milk. I don't have any milk, so I'm going to cheat. I'm actually going to add a little bit of water. I just want to thin it down just a little bit. Drop. Oh, just a little bit. You've got to be so careful at this point, because if you add too much liquid, it becomes too runny and it won't set. But it's looking, yeah, that's nice now. See, it's loosened up just a bit. As you guys can see, it's just a little bit loose, but not too loose. Perfect. Okay, I have this really cool little disposable piping bag. You could use just a plastic, like a plastic Ziploc bag as well. And then we just put the icing into the bag. This is just so much more convenient, I have to say. I normally make my own out of baking paper, but then I saw these for sale and I bought 100 of them for like $2 or something. That was so cheap. All right, see? And then you just bring it down as far as you can bring it. Down into the... Come on, little icing. All right. So once you've got it at that point, you just want to take a little snip. Just take a little snip. Yeah. Oh, that's a huge snip, I just realised. This may not work. My snip was too big. And then you can start to ice. As I was saying before, how you ice depends on what sort of decorations you want. The hole in my piping bag is way too big, so I'm not going to get really delicate decorations. But you may want to just do a few squiggles across the top, of course. And that's not going to work either because my hole is too big. The other thing that you can do is you can kind of make little blobs of it, and then you can spread it out with that spatula, which is actually one of my favorite things to do. Mahei, in the fridge behind you is a little, you'll find one of these little guys who's already been spread with his little icing sugar. If you could find him for me, I'd be most happy. He's all by himself. He's all on his lonesome. Right there. Yep, there he is. Oh, jeez. So this is what I was trying to do. It's completely covered in icing sugar. It reminds me of those little iced animals. Do you remember the little iced animals when we were kids? That's what it reminds me of. But yes, you could do that sort of thing. Just like as I was saying, don't make the hole in your bag too thick, otherwise it's totally not delicate. But it's really cute because it does harden. All you need to do is leave your little gingerbread people or your stars or your trees or whatever it is in the fridge. It only takes about 30 minutes and they get rock hard like that and look like spacemen. These are my spacemen, my Christmas spacemen. So the raw icing is fabulous, and especially with that little bit of almond in there as well, you can have some fun when it comes to how you want to decorate these. I can't have as much fun because I made the very bad error of, see this? Too big. You just want to snip it just a little bit. You just want to snip it a little bit, but never mind. I tried my best. Yes, we have a question.
2 questions. Where did you get your spice grinder from, and can you use tinned coconut milk?
Okay, great question. First question was, where did I get my spice grinder from? So that is this little guy here. So mine is a Sunbeam, and I think I got that online, I believe, that one. And I think it was about 25 bucks. So if you just Google Sunbeam, you can obviously buy them in store, but I believe with that one, I actually got that one online, and it is a fabulous little machine that I've had for years, and it's definitely in my top 5 appliances because of its versatility for us who live this sort of gluten-free existence. And you know, we want to be able to make our own gluten-free flours and grind our own erythritol into icing sugar. All that sort of stuff's quite fabulous.
And can you use tinned coconut milk?
And the other question was, yes, can you use tinned coconut milk? Yes, absolutely. You can use any. I'm going to put 3 buttons on him. I don't know how this is going to go. One's his face. It's not going to work. My hole's too big. You guys get the idea, right? Do not make your hole too big because you're going to have a mess. But you can always just squeeze it out and put it into a new bag and just do a little snip, and then you would get the most lovely. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. You're almost piping meringues, can you see, out of raw icing, which is just fabulous. How does it taste? Yes, you got another question?
Martina from Germany's asked, would it be a good idea to let the dough rest in the fridge for 30 minutes before rolling out?
Yes, you can. The question was about rolling out the dough. The reason why it is normally suggested that you rest the dough in the refrigerator, especially if you're making pastry, before you roll it out, is because that gives the gluten chance to relax. We don't have any gluten in our doughs, so that's actually a step that is no longer necessary. You can still do it to make it easier to cut the shapes out, especially if you're in a hot, humid climate. And it is hot and it is humid in my kitchen tonight. It is crazy. I think there's a storm on the way, quite frankly. It is feeling very warm. So if you're in a hot, humid climate, most definitely pop that dough in the fridge, even roll it out, then pop it in the fridge for even 15 minutes. That dough is going to firm up just a little bit, because remember, you've got either butter or coconut oil in there. So that's going to firm up just a little bit, and it's going to make your ability to cut your little shapes out a lot easier. But we don't have to rest the dough in terms of this whole idea of allowing the dough to relax, because there's no gluten, which is very exciting for us. One of the benefits about being gluten-free is you don't have to rest your dough anymore because there's no gluten in there. Because if you don't rest the gluten gets really tough. That's why they always rest their doughs before they roll them or bake them. But obviously for gluten-free people, we don't have to worry about that. But it does definitely, great question, Martin, it does definitely make it easier to roll them out, most definitely. Do we have any more questions, Mahé? No, that is it. So I will be sharing, I'm going to show you the good one. The spaceman. Okay, no, I quite like that too. Let's be honest. That's a very cute little. Oh, it looks like the perfect Hershey's Kiss out of royal icing on top. Yeah, I quite like that one as well. Yes, the problem was do not snip too high so you get a lovely thin line. But just remember the amount of coconut milk or almond milk that you're going to be adding to your icing. Just keep on, you may have to add more. I probably could have added just a little bit more as well. Mine was still a little bit thick. Yes, we got one more question.
If you make them thicker, would they need to cook for longer?
Oh, great question. If you make your cookies thicker, will they need to cook for longer? Yes, they will. And if you make your cookies thicker, and you know, you could make them literally, you know, almost the thickness of your finger if you like them really thick, the gingerbread. If you do that, please make sure that you keep an eye on the cookies as they bake and turn the trays often, because what's going to happen is chances are, and this is what happened in my oven, is the outside of the tray cooked before the middle did. So just be really mindful if they are thicker to keep a really close eye on them. You may, if you find that you've got a really hot oven, you may want to drop the temperature of your oven even down to 160, which is how much is that? It's probably about 320, 300 degrees, something around those lines. Fahrenheit, just keep on dropping it by about 10 degrees at a time. So you don't, because you don't want, obviously you want your cookies to burn as well, because that wouldn't be very nice. So I'm still going to consume, like, look, that's a perfectly decorated tree. Absolutely perfect. Couldn't have, it's called Bridget's minimalistic decorated tree. I'm still going to eat these. We're going to eat these, Mahi? We are. We've got a glass of red wine that we're going to be having with these, which is going to be amazing. And it just reminds me, our next cooking class is going to be pavlova, our sugar-free, my famous sugar-free pavlova. I'm going to teach you guys how to make that. It is unbelievable. We're also going to be having a class. There was another one I was going to do with you guys. Now, I can't remember what it was, but I do know that I've added another one this week. And as I was opening up our bottle of red wine tonight for myself and Mahi to have a glass, I realised how awesome it would be if we did a mulled wine cooking class as well, sugar-free mulled wine cooking class. So we'll do that at the end of the week. Plus, of course, we've got our wonderful pavlova that we're going to be doing as well. So there's some really gorgeous recipes for Christmas coming up. And of course, if you'd like even more recipes, there is my Christmas ebook, Bridget's Healthy Christmas, with over 50 festive recipes in there, party, holiday season recipes, and you can get that from bridgets.shop. So I look forward to spending time with you guys throughout the week as we celebrate this wonderful holiday coming up, which is Christmas. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you guys all back here in the kitchen next time. Take care.